Nancy Smeltzer, a tapestry artist, writes the following. I try to attend a certain church when I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area. There are always so many ideas that I hear in the sermons there that I find myself writing them down fast and furiously. At one such service, I found myself dwelling on an idea that I heard, that each of us is a tapestry. As a fiber artist, I loved the image right away. For my own artwork, I tried to make the surfaces as rich as possible, so I began to imagine how people each contain an amazing amount of threads that have been connected throughout their lives. There are those big events that are life-shaping. These serve as the framework of a person's makeup. Then there are the little remembrances that don't come up to the surface very often until something triggers the memory. Maybe it's the kitten that you had as a child, or the red ball that you and your brother played with. When their memory does surface, what a smile it can bring to your face. It's all of these experiences that have been woven into our beings to make up the sum of our lives. Then there are those dark events that we'd rather not remember. Why do they have to be in the fabric of our past? In my artwork, I rarely rip anything out. My usual mode of operating is to keep covering up what I don't like until I do like it. That's also been my usual approach to my life, in that I try to bury the ugly parts of my personality. There's depression and jealousy and greed and many other qualities that I don't want the world to associate with me. They aren't nice. Maybe if I just ignore them, they'll go away. I've often thought, cover them up, and maybe nobody else will know they exist. Yet all too often, there they are, peeking out from behind the curtains where I've tried to hide them and torturing me with their taunts. Facing these parts of me that I don't like is a new concept that I'm trying to incorporate into my life practice. A friend has been encouraging me for the last 2 years to embrace the dark side of me and allow it to be acknowledged too. What an unusual concept, I thought at first. I'd spent my whole life trying to run away from the shadows that kept threatening to engulf me. This road of avoidance had become rutted from all the times that I'd been down it, yet I didn't look for another path. Now, I'm learning how ill that operating mode served me. I'm finding out that not only is my dark side not so scary when faced, but that there are even some lessons that it can teach me. One plus is that I now know that I can stand up for myself and that I'm a powerful person. Now, there's a lesson that I never thought I'd learn. Yet, it's allowing me to help others face their own demons, and that's a comforting thought. Maybe I can help someone else's path be a little smoother than mine has been. So the idea of allowing the dark threads of my life to show is an idea that I'm weaving into my own life. They really are a part of me to be celebrated. There they are before me, dark and light, light and dark. Both are needed to make the complex tapestries that we are. End of quote. So, why do we need to talk about feminism in interpreting? We have been conditioned to think about trauma as an individual tragedy instead of an event that is interconnected to larger systems of domination that shape our world, our tapestry. The populations we serve as interpreters and ourselves are part of that world. If we go back in time, Sigmund Freud had come to the conclusion that hysteria was related to actual traumatic events such as repeated sexual assaults, incest, exploitation, and abuse. Actually, in 1890, Freud discovered sexual violence was endemic to women's lives. But this idea was unacceptable to the mainstream back then, the thesis too threatening to be rendered credible, so he retracted. He blamed his patients for having deceived him on that issue, so that he subsequently launched a fantasy theory to explain the development of hysterical symptoms without the necessity of actual abuses. It took 115 years for reality to actually be accepted as it is, and this notion to finally be corrected and accepted as trauma by the DSM-5, which is the book psychologists follow for diagnosis. This is just an example of how slow society has been to accept the problem of sexism. When the trauma we witness is the result of an accident or a natural disaster, it's generally easier to empathize. But when the events we encounter are interpersonal and rooted in social and economic oppression, we become caught in a conflict between perpetrator and victim. In this moment, we become forced to choose a side. There is no room for neutrality, because any attempt at impartiality simply reinforces the status quo. To not choose means we've already chosen. In the words of Herman, it is very tempting to take the side of the perpetrator. All the perpetrator asks is that the bystander do nothing. He appeals to the universal desire to see, hear, and speak no evil. The victim, on the contrary, asks the bystander to share the burden of pain. The victim demands action, engagement, and remembering. So, the question here is, given our socialization, our race, class, gender, and sexual orientation, what did we learn to see or not see regarding sexism? How is this reflected in the lives of interpreters? Wherever you are now, with your eyes open or with your eyes closed, whatever is more comfortable for you, safely put this work in the hands of the wisest part that lives in you, your own universal wisdom, and tell her to give you the image of how your tapestry looks like in the subject of gender at this moment. Notice what material it is made of, if it is cotton or wool, if it has lively or somber colors, if it looks like natural or synthetic dyes. Note the size of your tapestry, if it is light or heavy, if you see it hanging close or far away, if it is on a wall or kept in a drawer. Note if it has any fretwork design or any drawings, and try to guess on what loom it was made, if it was on a backstrap loom or a power loom. See if it doesn't have any holes, moths, or if it's fraying somewhere. Think for a moment of all the previous generations who contributed, who started to work on the threading, weaving the warp and weft, so that it would be configured in what your tapestry is today. They wove with what was available at the time, with what they knew, with what they had access to, with the beliefs of the time, with their life experiences. Perhaps a part of you feels gratitude and loyalty to your lineage for how they did things, for the gifts they inherited you, which is very commendable on your part. Blessing our ancestors and thanking them for the life we have today because we came from them is very noble, so honor them. But also tell them that perhaps today there are parts of the tapestry that are outdated, that are no longer useful, that in fact do not look pretty or that could be unfair or painful for today's needs. And ask them not to take it badly if you transform them so that they go better and are healthier for your life today. See how most of the ones you can see agree with you, with a nod or a smile. Others even seem happy that future generations will have another, better experience. Finally, notice what your personal contributions were to the weaving. Ask your universal wisdom to do several things for you at this moment through the use of your breath, which is the instrument it uses for healthy change. First, ask it to dust it off and give your tapestry a little wipe, a little wash, so that it does not carry ancestral dust, digesting any and all stuck emotions, recent and remote, from that misnamed war of the sexes, quote unquote. Digesting them all. Ask her to undo those threads in the subject of the relationship between men and women that no longer serve any purpose, and if that they remain, they would generate discomfort. Ask it to undo them partially or totally, and to help you free yourself from any conscious or unconscious remnant of prejudice regarding women, sexism, misogyny, or resentment between the sexes, thus recovering for you your life force that could have been stuck in those situations or circumstances. And if there are any wounds that all of this had caused you, ask your universal wisdom that using your breath very carefully, very slowly, go there and safely heal them completely. Healing them, and once the wound has been healed, it becomes just that, a scar without pain of whatever did happen but has already happened and is now in the past, either individually or collectively. Healing it all in a comfortable way for you. The only thing that remains is a painless scar that reminds you that you survived, that you got stronger, and that there are things you can do and we can all do differently for your well-being and that of your environment, healthily renewing it all. Now ask your universal wisdom to reweave your tapestry, adding new threads, updating the design, reviving the colors so that they serve your well-being and that of the collective automatically, comfortably for you, without you having to do anything. May it become a tapestry that gives you freedom, peace, well-being, joy, harmonious and respectful relationships, as well as mental health, and that actually helps equality and social justice, and it benefits everyone and everything. And notice how the tapestry may even change its shape. Perhaps it will be transformed into other fabrics to serve as blankets, or to make comfortable clothes, or to, decorate, or perhaps to even give you wings. If there is something else in need of attention at this time, leave it in the hands of your own universal wisdom and ask it to show you the healing color that would better heal that. With the first color that pops up, that comes to your mind, cover yourself completely. Let it heal everything. And let it also color some areas of your tapestry now that what was in need of changing for your well-being has already changed healthily. And you are growing and enjoying it. That's it. Very good. Thank your universal wisdom for her help. Tell her that you leave this in her hands, and keeping the pleasant feelings you now have, give yourself the gift of a different, longer breath, and reorient yourself in this space, feeling relieved and happy.